Someone's committed perjury and we have a hearing tomorrow to find out who. We also now know 100% who was responsible for the marketing of the It Ends With Us movie. And we've heard from Colleen Hoover for the first time in months. Let's get into it. Let's talk about the perjury first, because this is a really big deal. We have a hearing tomorrow to try and figure out who exactly is lying in this situation. There's a lot going on in this case with Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively, and it can get really confusing, so I'm going to try and sum this up. Basically, Justin Baldoni's team hired Melissa Nathan, who owns Tag. She's a crisis PR firm, and her former employee is Catherine Case, or Katie Case. The two of them had to give depositions, and they're both telling different stories. Melissa's part of Justin's team, so she's getting sued by Blake Lively, but she's also getting sued by Stephanie Jones, who owns JonesWorks. Stephanie Jones claims that Melissa Nathan and her team at Tag made all these fake websites to defame and smear Stephanie Jones. In September, Catherine Case, Katie Case, had her deposition, and in her sworn statement, she says that Melissa Nathan got her to type up all of these negative, awful things about Stephanie Jones in tweets, etc., and to send them to her to be included in these fake websites. During her deposition, Katie is asked, do you know about these websites with Stephanie Jones? She says, yes. Did you create them? She says, no. They said, how did you know about them? She said, I received a call from Melissa in early May, and it was communicated to me that a website was requested. Now, as always, there are a ton of redactions, but they clarify and they say a website had been requested. And she says, yes, the creation of a website had been requested. They clarify that this is Melissa Nathan who had the conversation with her about this website. She says yes. Then she says that she sent Melissa Nathan drafts of what she was going to post. Then she had to redraft it and send it back based on the information Melissa was giving her. She says she was asked to help alongside Melissa to draft a bunch of tweets for the Twitter page, and they were going to be reposted onto this website. And then the lawyer asks what website it was. Was it the Lying Steph Jones? And she says, I don't remember the exact name, but it was coming from Melissa. They ask her how she knows that her tweets were posted to the website, and she says, because I saw them there. And then they ask her, how did you get all this information? How were you communicating with Melissa? And she says, Signal. And they specifically ask her, is it normal for you to communicate through this Signal app? And she says, no. And they say to her, why would you use this? Is it because they wanted everything to be deleted? And she says, why else would we use that app? Now, here's where things get really interesting. Melissa Nathan also did her deposition, and in that, she denies it all. She says, what website? I've never created any websites except for my own and the one for Justin Baldoni. She even goes as far as to practically call Katie Case a liar. The lawyer says to her, you did work with Katie Case to create a website in connection with this litigation, didn't you? She replies, I did not. They say to her, and if Katie Case testifies that you did, that would be false under oath testimony? Is that your testimony? And she says, completely false. And they say, okay, is Katie Case a huge liar? And she says, apparently so, yes. Melissa Nathan admits to nothing during this deposition and just says that Katie is lying. However, Stephanie Jones had issued a subpoena to Katie Case, who gathered a bunch of emails, text messages, etc., got them all ready, and was about to give them to Stephanie Jones when Melissa Nathan and Justin Baldoni's lawyers said, whoa, wait a minute, we're not handing anything over. Stephanie's lawyers then had to file a motion to compel against Baldoni's lawyers because they were refusing to hand over this documentation. Their motion to compel makes a lot of sense. They said, Katie Case had all this stuff ready to give us anyway. We have a right to see it. Someone's committed perjury, and now we need to know who. We didn't know about this perjury until September, and Wayfair filed their opposition to this way too late. It was November 11th when they decided to fight this. Stephanie Jones also has support from Blake Lively's legal team because they also filed a letter supporting the motion to compel because they're saying, wait a minute, Katie Case, we've already subpoenaed her for our situation, and she was supposed to hand over everything that had to do with anything digital, social media, emails, text messages, etc. So we actually should have got this information as well and didn't. Blake's lawyers point out that because Katie Case had all of these documents and didn't hand them over to Blake, this confirms that there are documents that were not handed over, so things were improperly withheld. They also point out that both the testimony of Melissa Nathan and Katie Case are in opposition. They're both saying different things. And Blake wants to call both of them to the stands, but who are you supposed to believe? This is a really big deal. Both of these women made sworn declarations, and it's obvious one of them is lying. Now, we also had Justin Baldoni's team come in and file an opposition to the motion to compel. Their argument is that the motion was too broad, that it's extortion, trying to get documents from a witness. I don't know how that is, but I'm not a lawyer by any means. And also that it's too late, that the deadline for doing this is already passed, but they didn't know that Melissa Nathan was going to get on and say that Katie Case was a liar and that none of this was true until she did her deposition, which was on the final day. So tomorrow there's going to be a hearing and Judge Lyman is going to decide whether Katie Case has to hand those documents over to Stephanie Jones or not. And I think there's going to be a lot of information in those documents, but the most important one is who exactly lied in their deposition, Melissa Nathan or Katie Case. Here's what an actual lawyer thinks is going to happen tomorrow. So this is more with MJ. She's an actual lawyer who practices in New York. She says that the judge is going to order production tomorrow. She said the issue is too important not to. She said he'll probably narrow the scope to just Stephanie Jones things and that Wayfair's too late defense isn't going to cut it because good cause exists. She also thinks that they're going to reference this as probably a protective order or sensitive information and that there's going to be a tight deadline. She's guessing 2 weeks. I'm thinking even sooner. We also had Jamie Heath having to produce the full video of his wife giving birth, and he had 3 days to do that. So I don't think the judge is going to give 2 weeks for this. I know that was a lot, but it is such an important hearing tomorrow for so many reasons. We had to cover all the bases. All right, up next, we've got 2 things left to cover. Colleen Hoover has spoken out for the first time in months about this situation. And the other one, we now know who was actually in charge of the marketing for the movie, thanks to emails that have been released in all the discovery. We had Elle Magazine do an article on Colleen Hoover. She is taking over Hollywood with all of her movies. Her books are being turned into movies, and she's doing things very differently now after It Ends With Us. Colleen has her own production company and has decided to do her own movies. She's learned this after doing It Ends With Us. As you guys know, she sold the rights to Justin Baldoni, and she says she had very little agency over what was happening with the production of that film, and she regretted it. So she said she's now learned her lesson and she's not selling the rights anymore. She wants to have a hand in what's said and done on set. Just in case you're not aware of how big of a deal Colleen Hoover is, she has now sold more books than God, literally. In 2022, she sold more copies of her books than the Bible has sold, by at least 3 million copies. And again, that was in 2022. She's sold more than Dr. Seuss, Stephen King, John Grisham, and James Patterson as well. If you're familiar with Colleen Hoover, then you know It Ends With Us was actually inspired by her mother. Colleen's parents, at the age of 2, got into a fight and she watched her dad throw a TV across the room. So she wrote the book, being thankful for her mother and all the decisions that she made when Colleen was younger to leave her father. Colleen is aware that there is a lot of criticism around It Ends With Us and how it was written, but she says it's important to realize that this is one woman's story that is based on her mother's life. She made it clear in her author's note that she was trying to put herself in her mother's shoes, and she said it was extremely healing for both her and her mother when her mom read the book. Wayfair reached out to buy the rights to It Ends With Us, and around the same time, she says that she sold the rights to Regretting You to her friend and fellow co-author, and she said she's learned since then she doesn't want to sell them. She wants to keep the rights to herself and have more control, so she says she's 100% learned her lesson, and it was her fault for selling them the first time. Colleen said she had very little to do with the movie and she didn't know what was happening on set between these two. She said she's extremely disappointed and saddened by the whole thing, and she said it just felt like a circus when it all blew up. The whole cast, as well as Colleen Hoover, had put their support behind Blake Lively when everything broke and the media found out about what was going on set. However, everyone, including Colleen Hoover, got extremely bullied and attacked online for this, and Colleen actually had to remove her social media accounts. She said, "I'm just trying to stay removed from the negativity. I have my own story I could tell, but I don't want to bring attention to it, and I don't want to have to put someone else down to lift myself up. I'd rather just ignore it and let people think and say what they're going to say. I feel like it's so big at this point that there's nothing anyone can say to change whatever opinion they're going to have, even though no one knows the actual truth, not even me." Now let's get into the part that has been bugging me for months and months. Who was responsible for the marketing of It Ends With Us? We know that Blake Lively was criticized and caught a lot of flack about how she was marketing It Ends With Us. When all of this broke in December, thanks to her CRD complaint, we saw a plan of action that was given to all the stars of It Ends With Us on how they should market the film. The whole team was asked to focus on the love and light of the movie and downplay the DV side of things, not to focus on it, to talk about it, but not to focus on it. They decided to make the main focus the flowers. Lily Bloom, of course, owned the flower shop, and they all started wearing florals everywhere. There were floral shops popping up in New York where they would go and give tours. And we know for a fact that Justin Baldoni was the first one to do this. He was the first one out wearing his florals. He was the first one to give a tour to influencers at the New York pop-up site, but he quickly changed his tune. Thanks to the court docket, we've been able to see emails, text messages, etc. from his team talking specifically about the marketing. We have seen that he hired Melissa Nathan, the crisis expert, Jed Wallace, Jennifer Abel as publicist, and that they were sending out talking points to the media saying things like, Blake Lively was laughing about domestic violence, and here's a clip. Blake Lively's only talking about flowers, etc. Here's the clips. They were also pushing the fact that Blake had been marketing her hair brand that had just been released, as well as her liquor and Betty Boo's company, and they also sent that as talking points. At the same time, they're telling Justin Baldoni, stop talking about anything except domestic violence. We're not doing any of the florals anymore. He sends an email saying, I want you to change my whole bio and profile on my Instagram to supporting domestic violence, only share videos showing me talking about domestic violence. So this stuff for Justin Baldoni ended. No more talking about flowers and doing tours, etc. He left that up to Blake Lively and the rest of the cast, and they got eaten alive for it. Then some interesting rumors started to circulate that Ryan Reynolds' marketing company, Maximum Effort, was responsible for the marketing of It Ends With Us. Now, we all found this really confusing because Wayfair actually has their own marketing team. So why would they be getting Blake Lively's husband to take this over? They didn't. Wayfair was in charge of the marketing right from the very beginning. We've got emails, documents, etc. showing exactly what they planned and how they planned it, including the fun and sexy floral shops that were popping up all over New York. We've also seen the emails from Colleen Hoover that show it wasn't Justin Baldoni who wanted to partner with a domestic violence foundation and donate profits of the movie to them. It allegedly came from Colleen Hoover. And here's where the actual evidence starts coming in. So here's one of the emails we've been able to see now. So this is Team Wayfair. This is their Vice President of Marketing and Communications, thanking everyone in 2023 and going over saying that they're attaching the document, which is an overview of the initial content and campaign concepts that they've come up with. Wayfair. And here's the email that gives us the absolute proof that it was Wayfair's own team that was doing the marketing of the movie. When the movie was released on August the 9th, Jamie Heath sends this email to his VP of marketing stating this. We've all seen the noise and chatter regarding Justin and Blake and cast. This is all crazy, but I'd like for us to take a look at that even in the midst of feuding, how many people are pointing out that the DV is being glossed over and that Justin is essentially the only one appreciating the subject matter while others may be not giving it the proper respect it deserves. We know why that happened because we saw the emails that Justin's team was telling him to flip the script. He goes on to say, as you know, this has always been a concern of ours, and I think we might agree that there was enough response to at least consider giving it a bit more thought. We are opening with great numbers, and that is a testament to the movie itself and also the way you've positioned it. No doubt. And we should listen to the response and really embrace what we are learning and hearing. It won't hurt the movie by being more deliberate in embracing the DV aspect. People need to know that we do recognize the gravity and sensitivities of this subject, Jamie. It looks like the VP did not appreciate this, and she writes back saying, good morning, sharing this post that's using the exact language that has been called out for inappropriately marketing the film, and she attaches an Instagram video. Jamie then responds saying, to be clear, we're not saying it's been inappropriately marketed in any way. In fact, you all have been brilliant. Thank you. Extremely honored to be partners with you. It's been fantastic. The proof is in the pudding. This post is only pointing to the ones who have spoke about the marketing. And while I am not dissuaded by their commentary, it's good to take some learnings from it. I know and trust you understand the point, and I look forward to discussing it with you all. Congratulations on a huge, huge success. You play a big and amazing part in it. So there you have it. Wayfair are the ones that marketed the film. Now here's why things got tricky. Maximum Effort did step in, and they were supporting Blake. We know that Blake Lively and the whole cast of It Ends With Us decided that they would not do any marketing with Justin Baldoni. So what they decided to do was they got Ryan Reynolds' own company, Maximum Effort, to help them with that side of things. So planning their PR, telling them where they were going to go for marketing, etc. They got Maximum Effort, but they were still following the plan of Wayfair and what they were told in the script. We finally have an email in the court docket that deals with Maximum Effort. So now we're seeing what's going on. So we actually have an email sent to Maximum Effort from Jones Works, who was dealing with the PR and stuff with Justin Baldoni's team. And they're writing Maximum Effort and they're saying, we just want to reach out. We want to make sure that the content capture that's being set up for later this week is going to be able to include Justin. We want to ensure that Justin is able to participate and that he's included in marketing efforts where the other casts are being utilized. So they're already starting to get nervous that Justin Baldoni is going to be left out of all of the marketing, which he was. And then Jennifer Abel writes back because she's trying to make things sound a little better. She is his publicist. So she writes and says, I also just want to clarify, as it got back to us, that there might be some confusion. We are not asking at all for Justin to be flown to New York and in the room with Blake, etc. We are just asking for him to be able to be incorporated into whatever content is produced. So optically, it isn't evident that he's not included. Fans are smart and will start to catch on, we fear. So she basically wants to film Justin's part separate and then put whatever they're filming in with Blake and the rest of the cast. So she goes on to say, if we need to shoot our own content to be incorporated into the final, have Justin do something similar on his own platform, etc. So it's part of the larger concept. We're open to dealing with you guys any way we can to be creative. Please know we are realistic in light of this situation, but need to look out for our client as well. Discuss more tomorrow, but wanted to clear the air there so it doesn't get relayed back to our client anything other than what is intended. Thank you, Jennifer. Apparently they got things worked out because then there's another email attached from July 5th. And again, it's Jennifer Abel and she's saying, sounds like everything went well. Let us know what we have to do on our end. And then she's asking about all of the planning for all of the premieres and all the PR press meets, etc. Because Maximum Effort is doing this for Blake Lively and the rest of the cast while they're setting up their own for Justin Baldoni. Maximum Effort then gets back to Jennifer and says, our content team is putting together a few pieces for Justin. They should be sending it to you for your approval. The digital team is also going to send you a calendar so you can see how our rollout of content and social pieces is planned. So they were booking Blake Lively and the rest of the cast, and then they were letting Wayfair know, like, this is where we're going to be on this date, etc. Justin was not included in those, as you know. There you have it. Wayfair did all of the marketing and planning for the movie It Ends With Us on how it was going to be marketed, all of the florals, the pop-ups, etc. But Maximum Effort was then hired the summer of 2024 when Blake and the rest of the cast decided they were not going to do any of the promotions with Justin Baldoni. Tomorrow is going to be extremely interesting. We are going to have that hearing where Judge Lyman is going to decide whether Katie Case has to hand those documents over to Stephanie Jones or not. I will definitely keep you updated, so make sure you hit follow.